Everything that you could possibly ever want, just about, is online at epic.arizona.edu. We are working on getting more and more stuff online. We're talking about having a password for the trainers so that you can get in and get the quizzes and get more information than anybody else. We don't have that implemented yet. We're still building things as we go, but we are working very hard on that. So there's a lot of stuff there already, and it's building almost daily. Everybody has been wonderful in participating. We've had a lot of interest. This was way more people than we thought would be here. We now have 3 other master trainer sessions scheduled. 4, I don't know. We just added 2 yesterday. So there's going to be more around. You can send more of your people to those master trainer sessions as they occur, and we'll get them scheduled as fast as we can, as fast as we can fill them up, and as fast as we can get people, trainers to them, or our educators to them. The fire departments, the EMS agencies, the flight companies have really been wonderful in stepping up and helping us to do this, because it's really in the best interest of patient care. Other information. So who's doing this? Who's doing these kind of guidelines, the TBI guidelines? And the answer is not very many people. No state in the country is doing what we're trying to do. This is the, Dan, you gave a great quote earlier today. What was that? The first?
Oh, yeah, just so you know, the NIH has been around for more than half a century. They give $30 billion a year in medical research, and EPIC in Arizona is the first EMS before-after system evaluation that has ever been funded by the NIH. Because the bottom line is they don't bet, the NIH doesn't bet that money. They put it where they actually think it can happen. And 2 of the 3 NIH reviewers said, we believe this is for sure the only place in the US it can be done, and maybe the only place in the world. And that, honestly, is because of what you've done with CCR. They actually saw a state move the needle on something that's been impossible to move the needle on, out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival. And so literally the NIH has never done anything like this, and they're doing it in Arizona.
And we also surveyed, before to get to do this, we surveyed all the other states.
I think there's a slide on
it. Yeah, they just showed it.
Okay. No other state had done this. No other state had even planned on evaluating this, or had any ways to evaluate it. And only one, I think only one state we found had any plans on implementing the guidelines, and no one was measuring that. So this is totally unique.
And if you look at success rate, impact of the guidelines, before, 27% at what's called a Glasgow outcome score of 4 and 5 with a good outcome. We increased that significantly, or they increased that significantly.
In the hospital.
This is in hospital. We are working, by the way, on implementing these guidelines inside 2/3 of the trauma centers in Arizona with a different research study. It's actually a research study as opposed to a project like EPIC. But we're working on changing that outcome in the hospital. The 2 together is likely to be really powerful, very synergistic. There we go. We think we can make a big difference. This is a high leverage intervention. Basic things. We're not looking at really rocket science. We're not looking at new toys. Very basic things. Managing your ventilation, managing your oxygenation, managing your blood pressure. All we're asking is just to work on changing that. And that's the message that's got to go home to your providers, is we can't hyperventilate anymore, which we do always if we're left to our own devices. We must treat hypotension aggressively and get it above 90, and we can't allow patients to desaturate even for brief periods of time while we're RSIing, while we are getting the patient ready to put on a backboard. Whenever we need to keep that saturation above 90. But, sure, go ahead.
Just like CCR, MICR, the patient's best chance is when we got them right then, okay? We're the ones that are going to make their outcome. So that first 5 or 10 minutes is, we're the ones that are going to do it, okay? Because I was always, diesel and oxygen and go. This is us right here on scene with that patient, and then be going, okay?
Well, we're going against, I've been in business 25 years. We learned very weak training when we started, basically hospital training that we kind of assumed would work pre-hospitally. We have guessed and struggled and tried to find the right things to do. We have tools that are not well developed necessarily for our mission. We're working against a whole lot of training. We're swimming upstream. And that's where it's really important that we actually implement the guidelines. Teaching them doesn't matter. Implementation, actually having people take it home, get the message, and change their behavior. And that's really hard to do in EMS because we always go back to what we learned back in medic school 100 years ago or 5 years ago or whenever. We've already been over this. I'll move on. We still hyperventilate patients, absolutely. We cannot manually ventilate patients well. We don't do it. We need to get them on ventilators if we can. If we do manually ventilate, we need to ventilate them according to plan and no more than 10 times a minute, except in very rare circumstances where the outcome is almost universally not going to be good anyways. We've already talked about some of this stuff. Hopefully we'll increase the capture rate of folks that actually have these tools. Who is EPIC? It's everybody. It's a huge percentage of Arizona. It's every EMS agency in Arizona, every fire department, every air ambulance. It's everybody that's playing together in the pre-hospital arena to try and improve patient care across a really bad problem, which is TBI. Okay, so we'll go over on some quick FAQs and we got some time for questions. We've already been over this. I think this has been covered. We've already been through the warm-up or the collecting data. That's 2007 through 2011. We're now in the run-in or the implementation phase, and we'll be in the evaluation. The key concept in this is if it takes us 2 years to get the words out and to get behavior changed, we don't have time to measure it. We got to make this change like right now and then evaluate.
There's something really specific that you need to know as master trainers. What we are going to know is that starting today, the agencies that you represent will become a part of the run-in period. That is, for the evaluation, obviously there's going to be a period of time where some people at the agency are doing it the right way and some people are doing it the old way. And so during that time, you don't know who is before, who is after, so that just gets taken out from the analysis. So what is really important is when your agency gets to 85% or more of your providers trained and certified by you at your agency, we need to know when that is, because that's one, first of all, that's when an agency becomes EPIC certified, is when 85+% of their folks are in. The other thing is that's when we start analyzing the after data for the evaluation of the impact. Okay, so we'll need to be interactive with you on that, with the agencies that you're involved with, letting us know when you have 85% plus of your folks actually in and certified.
So you have regional protocols and you have what we've specified as EPIC guidelines. Generally, there's not going to be a lot of contradiction in most of those. Blood glucose is one exception. Blood glucose, treat it to your agency's requirements, to your local protocols. Our recommendation is 70. It's merely a recommendation. We want you to treat to what you're required to with your medical direction, with your regional councils, all of those things. So treat that with, treat those parameters with what you are required to. EPIC should not conflict with any of those things. So our data process, this is something you'll be asked about. All these questions will be things you're asked about. We collect data by whatever means it's available. Some places it's electronic, some places it's paper, some places it's a combination. It's everything you can imagine. Some places it's big file cabinets that we go through and pull the records. We go with a manifest of names, not just we'd like all your TBI patients. We've got the names, the dates, a lot of information about them that we send to you ahead of time or to the agency, and then we can collect those specific records. It's all we want is the patients that actually ended up with a moderate to severe TBI that were included in the trauma registry, that got intubated. There's other parameters that we search for. We collect only those records. We scan them in. As soon as we have them scanned into our system, which is protected by means that Mike could specify, but I'm not going to go over it, the data is shredded. The paper forms are shredded. So it's secured, encrypted, multiply protected, probably better than most records at most agencies. What about HIPAA? That's a question. Well, you know, wait a minute. We're giving you information that's patient-specific. The reality is that we'll be giving you information on these patients with name, with everything that we have about them, and that's all the records we want. It's state trauma registry data. This is not a research study. It was deemed not research by the University of Arizona's Institutional Review Board or Ethics Board. It is not research. It is a quality improvement study designed statewide to try and improve outcomes of traumatic brain injury. It is HIPAA exempt. So we still take all the precautions of HIPAA, but it is HIPAA exempt. Human subjects, it's not human subjects research. It again is a quality improvement project statewide, directed and overseen by both the University of Arizona and the Department of Health Services, which has a mandate to do so. There's no randomization. It is voluntary. Somebody says we don't want to play, you know, we don't have any mechanism or desire to force you. However, the bigger the group of patients that we can get, the better the chance we have of changing outcome and evaluating outcome. Trauma centers are informed. A lot of them are very interested in this. 2/3 of the trauma centers are involved in the PROTECT trial, which is progesterone for traumatic brain injury in hospital. The guidelines for PROTECT are essentially identical to EPIC guidelines. They are much more complete, much more thorough, manage a lot more parameters, but they're basically the same guidelines at their heart. They're trying to do the same thing.
Bruce, one comment on that slide that's important. Some people have asked, you know, when we go in and we've been so meticulous, and then we hand it over to the respiratory therapist or the anesthesiologist or the emergency physician to then save the patient, what should we do? And the reality is I think through your relationships at the individual provider level, there'll be some people that you know, I can't talk to that doc, he's a complete jerk, versus others are, you know, we're buds and we'll say, you know, we've worked really hard, and maybe even there's a good place for a person to say, you know, I used to do it that way too, but isn't it amazing? Now we're only supposed to do 10 a minute. You want me to help you with that or whatever? Obviously that kind of crossover without getting in fist fights is perfectly appropriate.
And give them the website. Just say, you know, go to epic.arizona.edu.
Show them your little card. The card has the EPIC guidelines.
Honestly, from my perspective, this is a place where EMS could make hospitals provide better care, which and dramatically so. Just a quick anecdote that makes us all smile. At an unnamed trauma center in Arizona, an unnamed emergency physician was doing it right, very carefully watching, and the captain running the resuscitation said, hey, come on, we're trying to, you know, wake up, get going, we're trying to save this person. And so the reality is the hospitals need to know what you've learned today as well. So when it's appropriate for crossover information, you can actually improve the care of the patient, or just volunteer if your agency lets you. Volunteer to be the one who takes care of the airway until they get on a ventilator. Those kind of things are perfectly appropriate because, again, this isn't research. This is trying to improve the patient's outcome. You don't want them to undo in their first 12 minutes what you spent the last 23 minutes doing just right.
Show them your EPIC card. This is very clear on exactly what we are asking EMS providers to do. There's a wealth of information. Direct them to the website. It's footnoted, annotated. It's everything you could possibly want on the website. So please direct them there. Help educate that that hospital provider. You may or may not be successful, but do your best. What does respiratory therapy do in an emergent patient? All they do is ventilate. What are they likely to do a lot of? Ventilate. So it's really hard to get them to slow down. All right, so what is EPIC certification? EPIC certification is just going through the course, getting people comfortable with the guidelines. For you guys, we want you to be resource people for the folks that you're training at your agency. Help them to understand why we're doing it this way, what the benefits are, what we hope the benefits are, because we don't know for a fact. That's what we're going to try and find out. But that we think it's the best possible chance we have for good outcomes in traumatic brain injured victims. Explain what it is. EPIC certification, what we're hoping is that people actually, again, take it to heart. It doesn't matter what we do with education, it matters what we do with changing behavior. That's the hard part. So EPIC certification is to try and change behavior of paramedics and pre-hospital providers across Arizona to do better pre-hospital traumatic brain injury management. That's all it is. It's not a, it's not going to keep you out of court or get you into court. It's strictly to try and improve patient care. We also need documentation. JT talked about that a little bit. It's got to be documented, the care that you gave. The care has to match, the documentation needs to match the care so that we know that actually it mattered. Because we'll be able to see pre-hospital to discharge from hospital on one single patient. String that thread together, which has never ever been done. And we'll be able to give you data to your agency about those patients that you took care of. Unfortunately, it's about 6 months to a year, I think, is where we'll probably be, because state trauma registry data lags. But we'll be able to get back, follow up on those patients. EPIC certification for the agency is when you have 85% of your personnel certified. Some of you that may be very easy. Some of you that will be very difficult. Let us know. We'll be here to help you in any way we possibly can. We got 18,000 providers to train. Do the math. We're going to be doing all the training we can possibly do to get people up on it and get them implemented and adhering to the guidelines as quickly as we can. Again, yeah. You guys are going to make EPIC succeed or fail. We're going to make a difference in traumatic brain injury care with your help out there training people. That's really what's going to make it matter. Because you're looking at 2/3 of the EPIC team right here. There's just not a big group here that's able to do this, so we're depending on you to do it. We'll do whatever works.
That being said, when you guys start your training sessions, if you guys start rolling this out, we want to be there to help you.
Yeah.
So when you start getting, you can say, I don't know, John, Amy, Bruce, what do you think? Okay, we want to be there to help you guys out.
And again, we need to know about it.
We need to know when your sessions are going to be.
It's important that we actually know where and when the sessions are.
Absolutely.
So would it be appropriate to work with our base station coordinators at the hospitals to set up a CE for this?
Absolutely.
If that's what you guys want to do,
I mean,
absolutely.
that hits a lot of people. Is what that
Sure.
does.
Absolutely. Community colleges, paramedic refreshers, ongoing education at the agencies, base hospital education, community CEs, wherever. We're doing conferences. We're doing anything we can think of. These are the contact. It's all on epic.arizona.edu also. You can get a hold of us. There's a calendar of master trainer events and other training that's going on. All right. I think this is the last one. We can do this. This is going to be fun. We're going to actually make a difference in pre-hospital care. How long has it felt like all you are is a taxi service to get patients to the hospital? And then all of a sudden CCR came around, or MICR, and we're saving, what's Mesa Fire save right now? 57%. Witnessed VFib, 57% survival rate. That's not unique. A lot of agencies across the state have close or possibly better numbers than that. So we're saving a lot of patients now. We're doing a really good job in EMS that we've always wanted to be able to do. We're able to prove it now. We're hoping we'll be able to do that with EPIC also.